out here at the Rosalia Fire Department. We want to show folks that if they have a bunch of waste, like big logs, weeds, other kind of like organic debris, we're doing a demonstration today where we're going to show folks how they can deal with that kind of waste on their land and turn it into something actually really valuable. Behind me is a biochar kiln. Essentially, it's sort of just like a fancy fire pit. We're gonna stack a bunch of yard waste in there and then get the process going with biochar.
Yeah, so we're gonna be layering our brush material in here from the base of the kiln to around a foot over the rim of the kiln if we can manage it. We'll then use our propane torch here to light the pile from the top. The goal is going to be to establish a fire curtain to exclude as much oxygen as possible from the fuels underneath. So the heat is going to be, through conduction, is going to be breaking down the biomass underneath the flame. Those gases that are released are going to be feeding the flame itself up above. And through that process, we're going to be insulating all the layers underneath. In the end, rather than those just burning to ash, those will be preserved in terms of long-lived carbon you can apply to soil for a number of years. Yeah, so this is how we want our kiln to look before we get our fire going. We're looking to be piled about a foot over the rim of the kiln. We're going to light it at the top, let it burn down into a pile of coals, get the temperature up. But after that point, we'll be continuously feeding materials on, establishing the fire curtain to keep oxygen out of the lower parts of the kiln. But importantly, you want enough initial fuel so you build up a really good hotbed of coals. Now that we've got some self-sustaining burning pieces of wood down there, really we just need to keep the temperature as high as possible. So we catch the rest of the top layer on fire, but now we're going to start building up our layer of hot coals to fuel the rest of the process. So now that we've got some heat established, it's going to become a self-perpetuating process. All of the wood gases being released from the hot wood are going to rise and combust above the kiln itself. So we'll start seeing a big old fireball, but the majority of the smoke is just going to be burned away. So it's a pretty clean process. So we're finishing up here. Now that the fire's died down, we can tell that most of the wood gas has already been consumed. There's not going to be much benefit left to continuing the burn. There'll be sufficient oxygen access that the majority of this material is just going to burn to ash if it keeps going. So we're going to begin quenching enough water that we stop the burning process completely, and then we'll be left with our char pile. Well, here's our finished partial burn. You can see there's a lot of partially charred materials here, which is okay. We'll take those and throw those in the next run. But this is our finished material. We'll go ahead and grind this down, charge it with nutrients, and it'll be ready to use on projects. So out of about 4 truckloads we burned today, this is our leftovers we'll throw in our next burn. So yeah, really good turnout.
Pine Creek Conservation District, we're very interested in biochar, especially because it can help reduce community wildfire risk by bringing woody yard waste around from people's homes. But at the same time, we're also helping with local soil health, maybe even trying to encourage some people to grow some food in their backyard by using biochar as a soil substrate. Our funding for this project is coming from the Climate Commitment Act, which is using Washington state dollars to reduce carbon emissions and increase natural resource management across the state. So this, for instance, this money, public funds being used to reduce wildfire risk in communities and also increase our ability to grow our own food in our own local communities.
We love using this on our restoration sites because it can do a couple key things that are amazing for restoration. The first one is applying biochar to the soil can help retain a lot of moisture. This really helps for some of our drier sites that don't have irrigation or are just generally tricky. If we put biochar in the soil there and kind of lightly mix it in, it's really going to help lock in that water so that the plants can access it for longer periods of time, even in drought. And then biochar also is super helpful for when you have very low nutrient soil. We'll soak it in some fertilizer solution and then put that out, and that's going to help with any sites with tougher soil problems like super low nitrogen, super low phosphorus. So we've generated about 20 cubic yards of biochar here. Oh, it's cubic feet. So we've generated about 20 cubic feet of biochar here. Some of these bags are going to go to the landowners that donated feedstock for us to make it, and then the rest we're going to stash and use for later restoration efforts at different sites around the Palouse. These particular are going to some different public sites to help remediate the soil and help make the ground a little bit more helpful for restoration.